In 2014, just before Amazon acquired it for $970 million, Twitch consumed nearly 2% of all peak US internet traffic. 6 years earlier, that bandwidth juggernaut was a struggling startup called Justin.tv, trying to raise its first real capital with a text-heavy, unpolished pitch deck. When you place a deck like that in front of a venture capitalist, you are not handing them a sales brochure. You are initiating a high-stakes psychological test. Investors do not open a presentation searching for reasons to give you money. They are actively hunting for the very first logical inconsistency that allows them to pass on the deal and move on. To survive that initial ruthless filter, a founder has to establish absolute operational competence immediately. The battle is won or lost in the narrative focus of the first 3 slides. Justin.tv faced a particularly brutal version of this test in 2008. They needed to convince investors to underwrite a live streaming platform, a business model notorious for brimming cash on server infrastructure. The instinct in this situation is to flood the room with data. Founders often throw every conceivable metric onto the screen to prove they have traction. Presenting a scattershot of data points fragments the audience's attention. Every extra number is a new vector for skepticism, inviting partners to pick apart the margins rather than buy into the premise. The counter strategy is to weave a single, unified narrative thread. By narrowing the scope to one undeniable metric, you remove the oxygen that fuels boardroom debates. Isolating a specific, highly defensible storyline forces the investors to engage on your exact terms, locking their focus exactly where you want it. Look at the second slide from Justin.tv's actual 2008 deck, labeled simply Company Overview. Out of all their internal analytics, the founders chose to isolate one explosive figure, pushing every other data point to the background. They led with a staggering number, 914% growth since January 1st of that year. Hitting an investor with nearly 1,000% growth over a few months forces a hard reset on their risk assessment. The conversation immediately shifts from "does anyone want this?" to "can they sustain this?" But a large percentage is meaningless if the baseline is tiny. To prove this growth wasn't a statistical illusion, the slide immediately anchors that percentage to a massive volume metric. The text right below it states they streamed 300 years of video in just 30 days. Combining hyper-aggressive percentage growth with undeniable raw volume neutralizes the most common objections. The investor has to accept the traction as legitimate, locking in their attention for the slide that follows. In the live streaming sector, exponential user growth without a fiercely protected operational margin will bankrupt a company in weeks. The pitch anticipated this exact concern by spelling out their unit economics. Running live video on Justin.tv was costing them a fraction of a cent, 0.35 cents per user hour. This chart shows exactly how that figure stacked up against the rest of the industry. While Justin.tv operated at a baseline minimum, their competitors' costs were running 6 to 16 times higher. This massive disparity in unit economics mathematically confirmed that the company had built a defensible operational moat. This efficiency was driven by their underlying technical architecture, specifically a custom-built Python media server platform that optimized data delivery. To accommodate 300 years of video, you have to build out and manage severe physical hardware, packing dense server racks into data centers to handle the load without burning through the runway. Early-stage venture capitalists will back hypergrowth, but only if you can prove on paper that your infrastructure costs won't devour the company as adoption explodes. If you are currently raising capital, stop building slides and aggressively audit your own narrative focus. Hand your current deck to an outsider and time them. If it takes more than a few seconds to identify your core business engine, you will lose the room. To execute this correctly, use the VC-ready 16-slide pitch deck kit. It provides a tactical framework to operationalize exactly this kind of investor psychology. The kit includes tech-forward themes and a 16-page slide-by-slide consulting manual, available for $497 with 0 recurring fees. Returning to 2008, the capital Justin.tv secured from that tightly focused pitch bought the founders something far more valuable than server space: operational runway. They needed that runway because their original premise, a life-casting 24/7 reality show, was failing to hold long-term organic attention. Instead, they noticed a completely frictionless user behavior emerging on the margins of their site. People were hijacking the streaming infrastructure to broadcast themselves playing video games. This organic audience was highly engaged, technically literate, and logging massive watch hours in front of sprawling monitor setups. Justin Kan and his team leaned directly into this organic traffic. They hired gaming specialists, stripped away the life-casting elements, and rebranded the infrastructure as Twitch. By prioritizing this shift in user behavior, Twitch rapidly expanded, eventually capturing 43.6. This term sheet flowchart breaks down the Google offer into two distinct financial components: an $800 million base price, backed by a separate $150 million retention pool for the team. The numbers were right, but the deal structure contained a fatal flaw. Because Google already owned YouTube, acquiring Twitch would trigger severe antitrust scrutiny from the Department of Justice. If federal regulators decided the acquisition created an illegal monopoly, they would step in and block the sale entirely, leaving Twitch in limbo. To hedge against this, Twitch demanded a breakup fee, a massive financial penalty Google would owe if the government blocked the deal. Google refused. A billion-dollar top-line valuation means nothing on paper if the seller is left holding all the structural regulatory risk. Twitch made the aggressive decision to walk away from Google's near-billion-dollar offer, strictly because of that missing structural protection. They briefly engaged in secondary negotiations with Yahoo, but those talks deteriorated at the final hour. Then Amazon entered the room, armed with the necessary capital and, crucially, the willingness to meet the structural risk requirements that Google would not. The negotiations concluded smoothly. Amazon purchased Twitch for $970 million in cash. This flowchart maps the final sequence of decisions: rejecting the DOJ risk with Google, bypassing Yahoo entirely, and locking firmly into the Amazon deal. The rigorous discipline Twitch applied to those 2014 term sheet negotiations was the exact same muscle they developed building their 2008 seed pitch. Whether you are raising a few $100,000 to keep the servers on or negotiating a billion-dollar exit, maximum leverage is only achieved by ruthlessly narrowing your strategic focus and eliminating structural risk.